that to them. I wanted to pursue another matter in the remaining time I had. A board member of yours, Mr Joe Gersh, gave an interview on Virginia Trolley's program last week in Melbourne. Among other things, he said, and I quote, "I do think that the ABC has to be vigilant. There could be more diverse voices on the ABC. There could be more debate. There can be more conservative spokesmen because that's what they're talking about. But that's a whole other subject. The ABC is at its best when it's pursuing issues from a centre perspective and taking into account all points of view." And went on to make other comments. What action has the ABC... I think Mr Gersh has been on the board since 2018, correct me if I'm wrong. What action has the ABC taken, or has the board directed you to take as managing director to respond to concerns of a board member that the ABC is not diverse enough and there are not enough conservative perspectives being aired?
The board seek feedback on a number of things. There's a number of reviews that will be conducted across any given year, program specific, where we do look at how well we have done with particularly people coming onto our programs for the diversity of perspectives held, and whether or not how good a job we're doing at reflecting the diversity that's held across the Australian public, whether it's direct from the people that are coming on the panel or if it's somebody else coming on the panel and referencing those other perspectives. That's what the board does. The board looks to see that the systems and processes are in place, and then reviews are conducted from time to time. So that's what the board does. The board, it is a discussion we have, I think, at every board meeting as to whether or not we're doing a good enough job.
Ms Buttrose, when she became ABC Chair in 2019, also gave an interview on the same topic with Raf Epstein on ABC Melbourne Radio again. She said that sometimes I think we might be a bit biased. I think sometimes we could do with more diversity of views. I haven't got a problem with anybody's view, but we've got to make sure ours is as diverse as it can be. And sometimes I think people, without really knowing it, let bias show through. That's another board member, the chair no less, who's publicly articulated this. What are the concrete measures that you can point to in that time that the ABC has taken to address this? You spoke in very general terms about how the board discusses it. What are the concrete things you can point to?
So we do have statistics with regard to complaints that we've received, things that we've investigated, and when we have, particularly around impartiality, and whether we've got upheld breaches of our own standards when it comes to impartiality. So in the last, say, 12 months, so the Audience and Consumer Affairs internally at the ABC upheld 4 distinct breaches representing 1.4% of investigated complaints about bias. 1.4% and the nature of those breaches, which have been, I would say, not connected in any way. I do not see systemic bias either in what I see or the hard data that I've got in front of me. I can keep going.
Ms Buttrose, hang on, just on that, this important point.
Yep.
You think Ms Buttrose and Mr Gersh are wrong?
I think that I do not believe we have systemic bias, nor do I think Ms Buttrose or Mr Gersh called it systemic bias.
No, they didn't use that specific terms, but they did say that the ABC lacks diversity and needs more diverse views.
Well, I think it's always a challenge. Again, I'll always take. I think examples work well in these instances as to which program, which time, and from time to time I do get that feedback from from the board, who do not believe from time to time whether or they will give me feedback to say that we could have done a better job, and there's certainly things that we look at.
So, are there any concrete things you can point to that you've done to address this problem?
It is something that we do with regard to training. So we have editorial policies training that we roll out annually, reminding our teams of the need to ensure that this happens. We use these examples where we've had a breach of impartiality as an example of where we believe we didn't meet the standard that we set for ourselves. And there's a couple of things that we do, Senator. If we've done a review of a program, we then go and talk to that team with regard to the feedback of that review. There are a number of things that we do, Senator, that are concrete with regard to making sure that we do make sure that we abide by our impartiality obligations.
Mr Gersh said there needs to be more conservative spokesmen on the ABC. In his time on the board, what action have you taken to address that if you agree with him?
Senator, Well, I can't be sure what Mr. Gersh was thinking at the time, but I'll take the interpretation that he is referring to the people that we interview and people that we have on our discussion
I'm not
panels.
sure that was what he was saying. I mean, he's not here to articulate that, but he could have said guests if that's what he meant. But he said spokesman. I think he means employees.
Senator, we don't employ people by their political ideology or how they assign themselves, and we do have a legislative obligation to be impartial. So you could take someone from Sky After Dark and put them on the ABC, but they couldn't do what they do on Sky on the ABC. They would need to be impartial at all times about how they go about being a presenter. So I don't want to know who anyone votes for that is a presenter on the ABC or a journalist. What I want is a diverse range of perspectives that is presented to the Australian public.
And do you think you're achieving that?
I think we're achieving that. As I said, I don't see that we have systemic bias across all of our reporting for everything we do.
Okay. All right, Chair, I think I'll leave that.